What's good? What's good, people? Welcome to another edition of Politrick here on the Got What You Need Network. I know it's been a minute, man, but it's so much going on, and a lot of times it's hard to decide what to talk about because things are moving so quickly. What Stephen A. says, the situation is fluid, and definitely in the first month or so of this administration, that would be an understatement. But just some things to throw out there for you. Eggs have tripled since he took office. Not attributing that directly to him. I know that there is a bird flu crisis and a lot of birds are being killed. Therefore, there's an egg shortage, and so, that can't be attributed to him, but it was sure attributed to the prior occupant of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Gas is up 70%. I won't say that, it has something to do with these fake tariffs and things that he's doing with Mexico, and that might be slowing the flow of Mexican oil into the United States. But, maybe not. So I won't go there. We'll get back to our commander-in-chief, but let's just go on with the topics of this episode. There were some neo-Nazis who tried to march through a historic black neighborhood in Cincinnati, and I'll let you know how that played out. And it's this federal worker mandate that's going on where this current administration basically sent a bunch of federal workers, I believe all of them, buyout letters in which I think they could resign and then be paid up to September. I'm not sure if coming back into the office was an option, but that's what I wanted to talk about, because sometimes you could have a winning argument, but the way you present it is so foul that you lose the benefit of the doubt. We know that there was a COVID crisis back in 2000, and we know that because of that, many office jobs went remote, and many people worked from home. And this was a great way to combat the spread and somehow keep some businesses open. Now in 2025, to find out, because I didn't even notice that so many people, so many federal workers were still working from home and still refused to come back to work, is crazy to me. And then to find out that the former president, Biden, had requested at least 4, maybe even a half a dozen times, just, okay, guys, it's been a nice ride, but need y'all to come back to work, and was trying to do it in a nice way. And, a few trickled back or whatever, but for the most part, everybody stayed home and are continuing to stay home while office space is being unoccupied. And not for nothing, they taking advantage. It's like, I understand that you got comfortable, you may didn't need a sitter, you cut down on your commuting costs, and all of that. But what I'm also finding out is that productivity has gone down as well. And even if productivity hadn't gone down as well, it's time for y'all to come back to work. I really didn't know this was going on. Now, I don't agree with the buyout, I don't agree with the method that they're doing, but I do agree that they're not doing anything wrong by demanding that these federal workers come back into the office or quit. So, I don't know. I might be on the wrong side of some of you listening, but I don't know. I personally feel like they're taking advantage. Now, with that being said, U.S. District Judge George O'Toole out of Boston, he temporarily blocked the buyout. I guess they had until a certain day before they could either agree to it, or I believe that they would be terminated or what have you. But a federal judge blocked that, and he is going to listen to arguments from the labor union, and he would either make a decision on extending the temporary block or making it more permanent, or maybe saying that maybe the administration is within their rights and allowing them to go on with what they plan on doing. So all I can say is stay tuned. But like I said, it's time for them to come back to work. And we gotta keep it a buck. And it's a lot of y'all that out there like, I don't get a tax return. All right, and your money is paying their salary to stay at home and refuse to go back to work when the COVID crisis is over. And there's no reason for them to be home other than comfort. Oh, I don't have to leave my home. I don't have to travel, whether mass transit or drive or whatever. And I said, all of those things are great. But you're a federal worker, and that means you're an employee of the people. And for so many people to be so stubborn and be so selfish and to stay at home is trash. Once again, I said at the beginning, I don't agree with the buyout, but I do agree with the premise that they need to come back to work. So, call me what you want, but they need to come back into the office. All right, let's move on. So, Lincoln Heights is a historically black neighborhood in Cincinnati. Route 75, Interstate 75, travels through Cincinnati. And there was a group of neo-Nazis who decided that they wanted to march through there. And I believe they had to have a permit because they had a police escort. But as people from the community was getting off work and coming home from school, they happened to see this group. I said it was about 13 of them with swastika flags and things like that, marching. And they proceeded to confront them, chase them out, take their flag, and burn it. And in this case, I want to applaud law enforcement that was on the scene, because from the video I watched, they wanted to make sure didn't anybody get hurt or whatever. But in this case, they didn't make a wall around these races or whatever. They were really trying to stop the black people from like, yo, y'all don't want to do this, y'all don't want to do this. And I could hear the lady cop saying, hey, I can't stop them or whatever. And they y'all not marching through here. And I got a few things to say about this. I get free speech, and you want to protect the city from lawsuits. So when somebody go through the proper channels and I guess pay the proper fees or whatever, you have to honor someone that asked for a permit to march. But with that being said, can't you balance free speech with intimidation? I get it. You can't legislate feelings and love and hate and all that kind of stuff. But when it was filled out, you saw the group that was filling it out, and you knew where they wanted to march. You know who lived over in that area. And those people paid for the police who were at first escorting them, attempting to escort them through the neighborhood. And like I said, very seldom do I applaud law enforcement, but here, kudos to them, because I appreciate their restraint and just letting it play out. And then, making sure people didn't get hurt. There are reports that in addition to their flags being burned, that some of their cars were damaged and things like that. That's vandalism, you know what I'm saying? And, some people may face some charges on that, and that's never a good thing. But I am glad that they were confronted and chased out of their neighborhood. And it's like, this is what we were trying to say, people. We were like, we know that whether it was the former President Biden or Senator Kamala Harris, that neither one of them were perfect. But we also knew the dangers of the current President, Donald J. Trump. I try to tell y'all that, you can look past the racism and the rhetoric, but a lot of his followers don't. Look at how many people he pardoned for January 6th that are either deceased because they decided that they untouchable now, or they're back in jail awaiting trial for felony crimes. I think it's up to like 6. And you say, oh, but it was thousands. My thing is, it shouldn't have been any of them. You were in prison, and was going to be there for years. And because you did it for the current president, he decided that he had to do what was right in his eyes and pardon all of you. And then so many of you decided to come out and instead of just laying low, speaking out on the people who prosecuted you for crimes you committed on tape. And then some of you decided, I'm untouchable. I'll go out and I'll have a shootout with sheriff deputies and get myself killed. Or I would rape a woman. And the list goes on in regards to the crimes, but I don't want to get too caught up in that. Like I said, I get free speech, but at sometimes you have to use common sense as well. And you have to say that, because of the intended, trauma impact on the people of the neighborhood you're attempting to march through, we decline. If you want to march through another part of the city, we have no problem with that. And I don't agree with anything they're about, but, once again, I understand this free speech thing, or I somewhat understand it or whatever, but at the same time, you got to look at, you work for the people of the neighborhood that they were attempting to march through and intimidate. And to sign off on that permit, and then and I don't know if they pay for a police escort or like when you pay for the permit, it comes with it or whatever. But I know that there was a police escort, because you could hear them saying, hey, stop them, get them out of the way. Like, really, like, basically saying, control them so we can march through their neighborhood and get them the middle finger. That's basically what these people were, like, pretty much demanding that the police allow them to do. And that was like the biggest part that bothered me from watching the tape. It's like, yo, get them out of the way. They shouldn't be here. Like, they shouldn't be in their neighborhood. Like, you stand on the side and watch us walk through with our Hail Hitler signs and all that kind of stuff or whatever. And you shut up. And like I said, kudos to the people of Lincoln Heights, Cincinnati, Ohio, who said, nah, we not going for that. And y'all not coming through here. And don't come back. Right? Like I said, big round of applause to them for that, man. Even though you shouldn't have had to do that, it should have been shut down from the door. And I hope that in the future, common sense would reign over nonsense and hiding behind free speech and being afraid of lawsuits and things like that. It's like, come on, man. Like, that could have got ugly. That could have got really, really ugly. You know what I'm saying? And like, it was some reports that was like black thugs. And of course that word was going to be thrown around. These were actually like neighborhood people. It was one teenager that was just getting off work. Getting out of school. There was another gentleman just getting off work. I heard a DJ, because he was like, he got a gig he got to get to. But he heard about this nonsense, and he was like, he had to come over here first and handle business or whatever. These were all regular folks from the neighborhood, hard-working people who didn't understand why this was happening in their neighborhood and decided that since the city and the county and the state wouldn't protect them, that they would protect themselves. And like one of the kids they interviewed said, in 2025, this is crazy. And you are a prophet, young man. You are a prophet. Now back to your commander-in-chief. So at the very least, we could say that the tariffs have caused confusion and it's caused backlash. Just in Canada, I was speculating about maybe what was going on in Mexico, but just in Canada alone, just from the alcohol and spirits business, all American brands have been taken off of shelves. We won't know what's the economic impact of the imports and exports and all that kind of stuff. I haven't heard anything that I could verify to say that they are refusing to receive new imports. But if you're taking it off the shelves, like, that would indicate that you don't want anything new. I would just think, you can kind of, you could pretty much guess that, they're not going to be taking any new shipments or deliveries or what have you. But more so, let's talk about the president and, everything he do, he has to then grandstand about it or brag or make it seem like he, forced, this president or this prime minister to do this or what have you. And then you find out that all the let's cut out with the Mexican president. All she did was agree to things that were already in place. There was a deal, I believe, cut in 2016, and then Biden renewed it. In 2006, that Mexico would do more. In 2021, Biden renewed it. That there would be Mexican National Guard troops at the border to stem the flow of illegal trafficking, drugs and people and different stuff like that or whatever. And all she did was just simply agree to what was already in place. And instead of just keeping a conversation, and that was, whatever, sneaky, whatever you want to say or whatever. But what I'm getting at is she didn't agree to anything new. Canada didn't agree to anything new, even though their border is not the problem. If you want to talk about anybody from Canada or any other non-brown country or whatever, let's talk about these expired work visas. That might be an issue, but I haven't even heard that come up. So if we're not talking about that in regards to Canada, Ukraine, and other, the UK and different places like that or whatever, then Canada was just like, oh, let's just make them a easy mark. And my whole thing is, back, I believe in 2016, 2018, I'm not sure in the year, Trump, brokered this corny trade deal with Mexico and Canada. And now when he comes back in office, he decides to try to initiate a trade war with those same countries. And these be the things that bother a lot of us, is like, if you all for the bravado and all the chest thumping and all that kind of stuff, that's you or whatever. But when you're like absolutely getting played and you still is like, he's the man and, oh, that Trump and all that kind of stuff, it's just like, yo, that's got to be like a sickness. And once again, there are some things and some ideas that he has that, in my opinion, aren't crazy. They're just outdated. I'll give you another example. The Panama Canal thing he talking about. If some of you would educate yourself on what America contributed to the construction, the completion of the construction of the Panama Canal, who used to own the land, east and west of the Panama Canal, including the Panama Canal, whatever. And that I believe Panama had just taken over in like 1990. And, in my opinion, once I educated myself on this a little bit, I thought like that was so stupid. My thing was, well, first, it was Colombia. It wasn't a Panama yet. And, wars and different stuff like that. I think the French helped Panama liberate from Colombia or what have you. They didn't want anything to do with the United States, so they brought in the French for this project. After a bunch of people dying, a bunch of people getting sick, and a bunch of lost money, and nowhere near completion, the French sold the project back to the United States. The United States came in with their engineers and so on and so forth and completed the project. In return, there's a strip of land, in Panama, including the canal, that was given to the United States, in return. And the United States pretty much had control of the Panama Canal under this agreement, I believe until like 1990. And then it was, as per the agreement, given back to the people of Panama. And I feel like if people wanted to say, well, we did all this work, whatever, boom, 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 how, like, what did we get out of this for giving it back? Do we get any, kickback for all the shifts that go through, all the time we save, the world, by being able to cut through there instead of going around South America, whatever. But so much time has passed, and a deal is a deal. And that's why I feel like, he's not really wrong. It's just too late for you to go and try to spin the block and be like, yo, and by the way, Panama, we want that canal we built back. It don't work like that. And the fact that one president think that he can just, his wants can then supersede any type of agreement, treaty, or what have you, is just bonkers. It's just beyond like anything any sensible person would attempt to comprehend. It's like, yo, I get it. Like, once I went, let me see what happened with this Panama Canal. And once I found out, what went on, I'm like, yo, America was stupid. Like, it should have even been no agreement that y'all ever get this back or whatever, man. Like, nah. Like, y'all was stuck like Chuck. We came through, handled business, and, yo, it is what it is. Like, hey, America could have gave up a lot of other, what you call, properties, territories, what I mean, or whatever, before they decided to give up the Panama Canal. But, decisions are what they are, and that's what it is, man. So, but I just wanted to, just throw that out there as well, that, like, it's people out there that aren't just like anything he says you totally like disagree with or whatever. I just be wanting to try to find what's the reasoning behind different stuff or whatever. And I don't even believe that what I just talked about is his reason. I just think it's just a power move, and knowing that he would like really charge companies and countries way more to come through there if like America that he was the president of regain control of it. So I don't think it has anything to do with what I just talked about. But my thing is, I don't understand why like we would even have in the cards that they would regain control of it, especially with the fact that like it wasn't like we just came in and tweak some things. Like we as a country had to come in and take over the entire project after being shunned, like get out of here, we don't want nothing to do with y'all and this, that, and the other or whatever. To have to come in and really save the day, ain't no way that they would have regained control of it. But it is what it is. That Gulf of whatever, it's the Gulf of Mexico. That's what it's been called, and that's what it should be continued to be called. That's stupid. Him sending people, his son, namely to, I believe it's Greenland, and I'm running out of time, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But just, it's some things that I think his people should tell him, like, don't say out loud. Like, you might think it's a good idea, but, like, just don't say out loud. But on our next episode, man, we're going to talk about the start of some Republican resistance. We got 2 Republican senators that have begun to speak out publicly about what's going on with the current president, and wants him to dial back some of the executive orders and start to do some governing. We'll see if they become to be ostracized, or is this the beginning of common sense starting to take over. Don't forget to support the other great podcasts on this network. We got Talking with E. We have Life and Love. We have the Blackmail Podcast and Encourage and Inspire as well. So, like I said, make sure you tap in. We're available anywhere that you get your podcast. And once again, that's the Got What You Need Network. This is Politrick. I am Sky, and I appreciate your support. Make sure that, you share. I think during this time, we need more voices out there than just these extremes. And I'm not on this both sides is wrong or whatever, but I think that when it comes to a lot of topics, not just politics, but a lot of things, this network comes with a more measured and common sense based approach. And I think it's a lot easier to digest for people than some of the other mumbo jumbo. Just my opinion, man. But, I might be biased, man. But once again, it's your boy Sky for Politrick. And that's my time. Peace.